Hey everyone, I'm Liz Ferry, and today I'm going to show you how I made these tulip-inspired crochet flowers. Some things you'll need for this project are a crochet hook. I'm using a size E, but if you want a bigger flower, you could use a larger hook. A pair of scissors, a yarn needle, some stitch markers. You'll need pins to attach the pieces together while you sew, and I'm going to use some craft wire to make sure my flower stands up. This one is 30 gauge. And you'll need yarn. I'm using this cherry red yarn for the petals, and this spring green yarn for the stem and leaves, both from Red Heart brand, but you can use whatever color you like. I'm also going to use this thinner yarn that I made by splitting apart the red yarn to make the inner petals of my flower. You don't have to do this, but I think using the thinner yarn just looks better, and that's the best way to make sure that the colors are a perfect match. I'll show you how I split apart the yarn for this part later in the video. You can also find the written pattern for this flower in my Ravelry store. First, I'll make the petals using my red yarn. I'll begin my work with a slip knot, then I'll chain 8. And slip stitch to the first chain, which was the slip knot. Then I'll repeat that 2 times so that I have a total of 3 loops for the petal foundation chain. So chain 8 more, then slip stitch into the same chain. And chain 8 one more time, then slip stitch to the same chain. And now I have 3 loops. Now in the next row, I'll chain 3. Then I'll double crochet around the first chain 8. So yarn over, pull up a loop around the chain, and double crochet. Then I'll chain 1. And next I'm going to treble crochet around the chain 8 and chain 1 6 times. So yarn over 2 times, pull up a loop around the chain, and then treble crochet. And then I'll chain 1, and now I'll repeat that 5 more times. Alright, I finished with 6 treble crochets with a chain 1 in between each stitch. Now I'll finish up this petal with another double crochet around the chain 8. Then I'll chain 3, and slip stitch into the first chain of the foundation, which was the slip knot right here. Now I'll repeat the same thing for the remaining 2 petals. So chain 3, then double crochet around the first chain 8, chain 1, and treble crochet around the chain 8 and chain 1 6 times. Then double crochet around the chain 8. Chain 3, and slip stitch into the first chain of the foundation. And repeat 1 more time for the last petal. Then I'll cut off the yarn and sew in the ends. Now I've finished the main set of outer petals. Now I'm going to make the second, smaller set of petals using a matching thinner yarn. First though, I need to split apart some of my yarn to make it a smaller size. So I'll take a small length of yarn, and at the middle I'm going to untwist the strands a little bit so that I can separate them into 2 groups of 2 strands. Then I'll just continue to untwist the strands all the way out to the end. and I'll do the same thing on the other side. And now I have a couple of lengths of a thinner yarn that perfectly matches my thicker yarn. So I'll use this yarn to make the smaller petals. I'll begin my work the same way that I made the bigger petals, with a slip knot, then chain 8, and slip stitch to the first chain, which was the slip knot. Then repeat that 2 more times so that I have a total of 3 loops for the petal foundation chain. Now in the next row, I'll chain 3, then I'll single crochet around the first chain 8. Next, double crochet around the chain 8, and next I'm going to treble crochet around the chain 8 6 times. Now I'll finish up this petal with another double crochet and another single crochet around the chain 8. Then I'll chain 3 and slip stitch into the first chain of the foundation, which was the slip knot right here. Now I'll repeat the same thing for the remaining 2 petals. Chain 3, single crochet around the chain 8, double crochet around the chain 8, and treble crochet around the chain 8 6 times. Next, double crochet and then single crochet around the chain 8, then chain 3 and slip stitch into the first chain of the foundation. Then repeat 1 more time for the last petal. Next, I'll cut off my yarn and leave a long tail to sew the smaller petals inside the larger petals. When sewing the petals together, make sure to offset each layer so that the petals on the inside are in between the petals on the outside instead of layered on top of each other. Next, I'll make the stem. Before I do though, I need to make a wire skeleton for the stem and also for the leaves. So I need to make 3 9-inch wire frames. First, I'll pull out 2 inches of wire, then bend at the 2-inch mark to form a loop. Pull out 9 more inches of wire, twisting the wire around the bottom of the 2-inch piece to form a loop. Then fold the wire at the other end at the 9-inch mark to form another loop on the other side. Twist another 9 inches of wire around the first. Since this is such a thin wire, I'm going to make another loop of the same size on this side, then twist another 9 inches of wire around until the opposite side, and I'm going to make another loop here. Then twist around another layer of wire, this time I won't make another loop on the other side, so I'll twist another layer of wire around, and then I'll twist around 2 more layers of wire. Then I cut the wire and twisted the end all the way around. Then I'll do the same thing to make 2 wire skeletons for the leaves. Now I'll set aside my 2 wire skeletons for the leaves for now, and I'll make the stem. First, I'm going to bend the upper 1.5 inches of the wire into a circle on top of the remaining 7.5 inches of wire for the stem. For the leaves, I won't need to twist the top of the wire into a circle, so I'll leave the wire straight. Next, I need to cover the wire with my green yarn. So I'm going to leave a really long tail of green yarn, about 40 inches long, that I'll use to cover the wire. And I'm going to pull up a loop around the wire loop at the bottom of the stem, and chain 1. This does not count as a stitch, this is just to fasten the yarn to the wire. Before continuing, I'm going to wrap the long tail of green yarn around the wire stem from bottom to top, covering the wire completely. Then I'll use my hook to tie the rest of the tail around the top wire loop. I'll pull up a loop in the wire, then pull the tail through the loop. And I'll repeat that a few more times to cover the loop in yarn. Then I could sew in the rest of the tail, or I could just wrap it around the stem for a little bit and pin it down for now, so that I can work the stitches of the stem around the tail end to fasten it. Then I'll continue at the pulled up loop and the chain 1 at the bottom of the stem. First, I'll single crochet 2 into the wire loop at the bottom of the stem, then single crochet along the wire stem from bottom to top until I get to the top of the straight part of the stem, just under the small circle that I made at the top of the stem. This is going to be about 28 stitches. Now I've reached the top of my stem, so here I'll make a circle of stitches under the wire circle. First, chain 1 for the foundation, then chain 1 more to count as the first stitch of the row. Then single crochet into the second chain from the hook 5 times so that I have a total of 6 stitches. Alright, I've made a small circle of 6 single crochets. Now I'm going to wrap the circle of stitches around the wire underneath the circle of wire before I make the next row, so that the wire is inside the circle of stitches. Then into the chain 1 that counted as the first stitch of the previous row, I'll single crochet. And now, as you can see, the wire is popping up through the middle of the circle of stitches that I just made. Now, into this row, I'm going to create a picot after every stitch. So to do that, I'll chain 3, then slip stitch into the third chain from the hook. So I'll repeat that for every stitch of this row. Single crochet 1 into the next stitch, then create a picot with a chain 3 and a slip stitch into the third chain from the hook. And I'll repeat that for each stitch of the row. To end the row, I'll slip stitch to the first stitch of the row, and I'll cut off a long tail to use to sew the top of the stem to the petals. To make the leaves, I'll begin the same way that I began the stem to cover the wire in yarn. Leaving a 40-inch long tail of green yarn, I'll pull up a loop around the wire loop at the bottom of the leaf, and chain 1 to fasten the yarn. Then wrap the long tail of green yarn around the wire from bottom to top. And tie the rest of the tail around the top loop of the wire to fasten the tail. Then I'll continue at the pulled up loop and chain 1 at the bottom of the leaf. First, I'll single crochet 2 into the wire loop at the bottom of the leaf, then single crochet 2 more around the wire. Now I'll create gradually taller stitches to widen the leaf. So I'll half double crochet 2 around the wire, then double crochet 2 around the wire, and next I'll add treble crochet stitches around the wire until almost at the top of the wire, about 26 stitches. Now I'll add gradually shorter stitches to narrow the top of the leaf. So double crochet 2, half double crochet 2, and then single crochet 2 around the wire. And then to finish off this side of the leaf, I'll single crochet 2 into the loop of wire at the top. Next I'll create a picot to give the leaf a pointy tip. So chain 3 and slip stitch into the third chain from the hook. Now I'll work along the other side of the wire, and I'll do exactly the same thing to make the leaf symmetrical. So I'll single crochet 2 more into the wire loop on the other side of the wire, and the rest of the stitches I'll work onto the wire in between the stitches that I made in the previous row on the other side of the wire. So single crochet 2, half double crochet 2, double crochet 2, treble crochet 26, double crochet 2, half double crochet 2, and single crochet 2. Then single crochet 2 more in the wire loop at the bottom. To end the leaf, slip stitch into the first stitch of the previous row. Then I'll cut off the yarn, leaving a long tail to sew the leaves to the stem. If you like, you could repeat exactly the same thing to create a second leaf, but I think it looks a bit better if one of the leaves is a little smaller. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing to create my second leaf, up until the stitches on the opposite side of the leaf. Instead of making the same stitches on the other side to make the leaf symmetrical, I'm just going to create an entire row of single crochet on this side of the leaf, so that it ends up smaller. You could use double crochets or half double crochets as well if you prefer. Just make sure to gradually make the stitches taller if you do. For instance, if you're using double crochets, make sure to do 2 single crochets and 2 half double crochets onto the wire before and after making your double crochets to taper both sides of the leaf. And then just sew all the pieces together. These tulips turned out so cute, I think I'll make a few little pots to put them in. They would look so cute on a windowsill. But what do you guys think? How would you style these crochet tulips? What kind of flowers do you think I should make next? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you finished a project of your own using this or any of my videos, I'd love to see your work. You can find my social media links in the description below, or tag me on Instagram at LizFairy. If you liked this video, you could press the like button or share it on social media. And if you'd really like to help out the channel, you can donate to my Patreon. You can get some pretty cool perks through Patreon, like seeing my videos early and ad-free. Find out more at patreon.com/fairyrings. You could also subscribe and click the bell icon so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!